Let's jerk it. Pirate Mustache here. So on one of my excursions out through the thrift stores and everything, I managed to pick up this little doohickey. This is a food dehydrator. I paid a whopping $4 for. So I've never made dried foods, jerky, things like that. What do you say we try to make some jerky with this? Cue the cutting footage. Alright, so we're going to start off with the meat here. I've got two types of meat because I am experimenting. I've got some already pre-sliced up beef strips, beef for stir fry, and then I have a ginormous top round steak, boneless. Top round was one of the meat cuts that was recommended. So what we'll do is, here's the beef strips. I'm going to try two different types of marinade here. I've got a teriyaki with pineapple juice, and I've got Chicago Steakhouse marinade. So I'm actually going to do the teriyaki with these pre-cut strips. Now, this bottle is labeled at 15 minutes, but there's no instructions on the bottle of how much to use. So when I went to the manufacturer's website to look it up, the instructions on the manufacturer's website said half a cup, half an hour. So I don't know why it's marked 15 unless this is different stuff, but it looked like the same stuff on the manufacturer's website. So there is that. A little bit of that air out. And there we go. We'll let that marinade sit. It's supposed to be in the fridge for half an hour. So guess what? This is going to go into the fridge. Now, what I got was, this is almost half a pound. And it cost me $2.60. Now the second piece that I'm going to be making, this is more traditional. This is a top round steak. It is 1.15 pounds plus $6.88. I'm going to do a couple different things here. I'm going to cut it in half. Now you're supposed to look for the leanest cuts of meat that you can. Top round steak was suggested. And I'm just looking for the grain. The grain seems to be going this way with this meat. So I'm going to cut across the grain, and I'm going to cut it into strips. I'm trying to simulate my favorite form of jerky. It's supposed to be like 3/8 of an inch. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Roughly the size of my favorite kind of jerky. I can't tell you the name of the jerky, but I can tell you that it is it's not traditional jerky. It's like meaty little strips. But this is quite a bit. When this is done, this will yield, this is more than a pound of prime cuts jerky. There we go. Once again, I'm going to load up a little bit, because the idea is to get the marinade thoroughly in it. Now this stuff does have instructions on it, and it says half a cup over steak, chicken or pork, cover, refrigerate for 30 minutes, marinate longer for richer flavor. So And this stuff is thick. Look at that. It's like a sauce. So. Good Lord, that stuff is thick. And I'll load up some more. Squeeze as much air out as I can. And the marinades are done. And this is the messy part. This is the teriyaki. I'm going to try to get it all in one tray. Lay them out, but do not overlap them. They can touch, but they can't lay on top of each other. I think I have just a little too much of the meat. There's a big piece. Now, the instructions say it can touch. So now let's put the next one on. Now, I already know these slices are way bigger than the other stuff. And this bag was pretty much full of meat. In fact, so much full, I doubt the marinade was adequate for the amount of meat that I used. But it says it's for 1 to 2 pounds, so my meat may actually be a little too thick, given how close it is when I put the next tray on top of this. This is not as goopy as the teriyaki. I don't know if that's because the marinade was thicker, which it was. It's almost like a sauce. Or if it's the fact that there was so much meat to put the stuff on. Okay, I'm not sure as to the optimal placement for this within the stack. The unit has 5 trays. There's only a couple things that I do know for certain. So I'm actually going to put these in the bottom. There we go. Here's the unit. So I don't know what the optimal placement is, if I'm supposed to start from the top down or if I can work from the bottom up. We're going to try bottom up, but I do know the manual does say to put the fruit roll tray on the top to help facilitate airflow, and that you have to have the lid. Alright, it's only been about 20 minutes, but one of the things I was afraid of was, because I could feel the air coming out these vents in the top, that it was just air, it wasn't anything, and it's supposed to be warm. Since then, though, it has definitely got warm air, and I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but right there, right here, it's getting fog in the trays. Alright, so I've turned it off once I woke up this morning. So this is a little over 12 hours, 13 hours of drying. Cracks when you bend it. Yeah, cracks when you bend it. So, though this is the steakhouse. And this is the teriyaki. Yeah. That looks done. It looks good too. So this thing works. Good. Alright, so the process is complete. I have yielded 2 bags of beef jerky. And let's sum up what we've learned here. First of all, the bottled marinade worked very good, but I do want to try some homemade recipes, so we will try that later. Secondly, I over-dried them. I dried these for a grand total of about 13 hours. That is way too much. After the 4-hour look, and then what they were after the 13 hours, I'm thinking maybe I should have done 8 on these. That being said, they are dry, but they are still flavorful. The cutting across the grain worked very well. So this is the results from the, I'm going to try to hold these up here. So this is the results from the strips that were pre-cut that I tried. They came out real scrawny, really. I mean, these things are teeny tiny, but they're good and it worked. A little chewy, but that cutting across the grain causes them to break up really easy. They are actually more dry than the stuff I cut, because the stuff I cut was bigger. This is the stuff that we cut. And as you can see, it's a lot better. So, and it breaks apart real easy, comes apart. A little crunchy, but good. To get the consistency I'd like, I'd probably dry a little bit less. It'll reduce the shelf life, but it won't be, I'll eat it all real quick. That's essentially 1.5 pounds that I just held up to you, minus some that I've eaten for test purposes. But it worked out great. This was 1.5 pounds of jerky. If I calculate the entire cost of the machine, the entire cost of the bottle of marinade, which I only used half a cup out of, but if I use the entire cost of that and the cost of the meat, I still came in at half the cost if I had bought 1 pound of store-bought beef jerky. So that says a lot. I do plan to experiment a little more with this. We'll film with it. For the deal that I've got, it's already just paid for itself. So, I hope you enjoyed this round of jerky making. Hope you learned how to jerk it. Hey, thanks for watching. As always, please subscribe, hit the bell notification if you want to know of new content, and may the winds always be at your back.